Rahim sat quietly on the bench outside the hospital. The morning sun had begun to shine softly, but its warmth could not reach the heaviness in his heart. Inside the room, his son Sammy lay on the bed. Sammy's small hands rested gently on the white blanket. He looked calm, but Rahim knew that calmness was mixed with sadness. The accident had changed everything. One wrong turn, one slip, and Sammy's life was never going to be the same again. The doctors had told him that his son might never walk again. Rahim could still remember the day of the accident. He had driven fast to reach the market, and a sudden rain had made the road slippery. Sammy had been riding his bicycle when a car lost control and hit him. The paramedics arrived quickly, and Rahim remembered holding his son's hand as they rushed him to the hospital. The days that followed were filled with pain, worry, and long nights. Rahim had cried silently while sitting in the waiting room. He had held Sammy's favorite toys and tried to comfort him, but the boy's bright smile had faded. Rahim often watched Sammy's eyes, searching for hope and seeing only sadness. He wanted to do something, anything, to bring joy back into his son's life. One afternoon, while Rahim was scrolling through his phone, he saw an advertisement that caught his attention. It was about a German Shepherd K9, trained to assist people with disabilities. The dog was described as intelligent, gentle, and very loyal. Rahim read about many children and adults whose lives had changed because of these dogs. They could help people move safely, carry small items, and provide emotional support. Rahim felt a spark of hope in his heart. Maybe this dog could bring happiness back to Sammy. Maybe he could be a friend and a helper at the same time. The next day, Rahim drove to the kennel where the German Shepherd lived. The sun was bright and the air was fresh. As he entered, he saw several dogs playing in a large open area. One dog, a strong and alert German Shepherd, sat calmly near the gate. His coat was shiny and his eyes were deep and expressive. As soon as Rahim approached, the dog wagged his tail slowly and pressed his head gently against Rahim's hand. It was as if the dog knew why Rahim had come. "This is Bruno," said the caretaker. "He is trained to assist people with disabilities. He is calm, intelligent, and very loyal." Rahim nodded. He could see that Bruno was different. There was something in his eyes, something that told Rahim that this dog could understand and care. Rahim returned home that evening with Bruno sitting quietly in the car. Sammy was in his wheelchair looking out of the window. When Rahim entered the room, he lifted Sammy into his arms and brought him to the living room. Sammy looked surprised when he saw Bruno. The dog walked slowly toward him, sniffing the wheelchair and then gently placing his head near Sammy's hand. Sammy's eyes widened. "He is beautiful," he whispered. Rahim smiled. It was the first word Sammy had spoken with excitement in a long time. Bruno seemed to understand his role immediately. He sat beside Sammy, watching him closely. When Sammy moved his hands or shifted slightly, Bruno moved closer, offering support. Rahim felt a wave of relief. Perhaps this was the beginning of something wonderful. The days that followed were filled with small discoveries. Bruno helped Sammy in ways that amazed Rahim. He could push the wheelchair slightly when Sammy's hands were tired. He could pick up small items that fell on the floor. He never barked loudly or jumped aggressively. Instead, he was calm, careful, and always attentive. Sammy began to smile more often. He spoke to Bruno, telling him stories about school, about friends, and about his dreams. Bruno listened patiently as if he understood every word. Rahim watched his son slowly come back to life. He saw Sammy's laughter returning, first quietly and then more openly. Sammy began to have small routines with Bruno. Every morning they would go to the garden. Sammy would sit in his wheelchair while Bruno ran around, bringing sticks and balls for Sammy to throw. Even though Sammy could not run, he could still play in his way. He could still laugh, still feel joy, and still feel the world around him. One evening, Rahim decided to try something new. He placed a small ramp in the living room and encouraged Sammy to try moving slightly up the ramp with Bruno's help. Sammy was hesitant at first, but Bruno stood behind him, his strong body steady and supportive. Slowly, carefully, Sammy moved up a few steps. Rahim felt tears in his eyes. It was the first time he had seen his son move in a way that seemed close to walking. Sammy looked at Bruno and whispered, "Thank you." Bruno wagged his tail as if to say, "You can do more." The bond between the boy and the dog grew stronger each day. Bruno was not just a helper. He became Sammy's best friend. Sammy began to share his secrets, his fears, and his dreams with Bruno. At night, Bruno would sit beside Sammy's bed, watching over him while he slept. Rahim could sleep more peacefully knowing that his son had a loyal companion who would never leave him alone. Rahim also noticed something else. Sammy's confidence began to grow. He started trying small things on his own. He would reach for objects, try to move his wheelchair independently, and even help feed Bruno. The father felt proud and hopeful. The accident had taken so much from their lives, but Bruno had brought a new light. The home was no longer silent and heavy. It was filled with laughter, small victories, and the quiet bond between a boy and his dog. One afternoon, Rahim took Sammy and Bruno to the park. The sun was warm and birds sang in the trees. Sammy looked around and smiled. He rolled his wheelchair slowly while Bruno walked beside him, matching his pace. Children in the park watched in awe. They saw a boy and his dog, not ordinary, but something special. Sammy waved at them and they waved back. The world felt bigger and friendlier. Rahim knew that Bruno's presence was more than just helpful. Bruno gave hope, courage, and friendship. Sammy's eyes shone with a light that Rahim had thought was lost forever. Every small action Bruno made, from nudging Sammy to picking up a toy, felt miraculous. Rahim felt a deep gratitude that he had made the decision to bring Bruno into their lives. That night, as Rahim tucked Sammy into bed, he looked at Bruno lying quietly beside the boy. "Thank you, Bruno," he whispered. Bruno looked at him with his deep, understanding eyes, and Rahim felt that somehow the dog understood the words without them being spoken. Sammy reached over and patted Bruno gently. "You are my hero," he said. Bruno wagged his tail as if to promise that he would always stay by his side. Rahim knew that the journey was only beginning. There would be challenges ahead, but with Bruno by Sammy's side, the boy had found a friend, a helper, and a source of courage. Rahim smiled softly, feeling hope fill his heart for the first time in many months. The bond between a father, a son, and a dog had started to change their lives. It was a quiet, gentle miracle, one that would grow stronger with each passing day. Rahim knew that with patience, love, and the unwavering loyalty of Bruno, Sammy could face the world again, and maybe one day walk in it too. The next morning, the sun rose gently over the city, filling the Rahim household with warmth. Sammy was already awake, his eyes bright with anticipation. He could hear Bruno moving quietly around the room, stretching and wagging his tail. Sammy smiled and reached for his friend. Bruno came immediately, nuzzling his head into Sammy's lap as if saying good morning. The boy laughed softly. The sound felt so rare and precious that Rahim paused in the doorway to listen. "Good morning, Bruno," Sammy said. His voice was calm but filled with joy. Bruno responded by gently licking Sammy's hand. It had become a daily ritual. Every morning they shared this small but powerful greeting. It was a bond that no words could fully describe. Rahim came into the room carrying a tray with breakfast. He smiled at the sight of his son and the dog together. "I think you two are the best team in the world," he said. Sammy laughed lightly and Bruno wagged his tail as if he understood every word. After breakfast, Rahim suggested a new activity. He had read about small exercises that could help improve muscle strength for people with paralysis. Today he wanted to try them with Sammy and Bruno. Sammy looked at his father nervously. He was unsure if he could do it, but Bruno's presence gave him courage. Rahim placed a small ball in front of Sammy and asked him to reach for it. Sammy struggled slightly, but Bruno gently nudged the ball toward him with his nose. Sammy's face lit up as he grabbed it. "Bruno, you helped me," he said excitedly. Bruno barked softly in response, wagging his tail. For the next hour, they continued practicing simple movements. Sammy tried to reach higher, and Bruno assisted in small ways. Sometimes he placed his paw gently on Sammy's lap to help him balance. Sometimes he picked up objects that fell and brought them back. Every movement, every small success felt like a victory. Rahim watched in awe. He had never imagined that a dog could be such a source of encouragement and support. Later in the afternoon, Rahim suggested going for a walk in the park. Sammy had not been outside much since the accident. The wheelchair had made it difficult, and Rahim had feared that Sammy might feel embarrassed. But today, with Bruno by his side, Sammy felt brave. As they entered the park, children were playing and laughing. Some of them stopped to watch Sammy and Bruno. They saw a boy moving in his wheelchair with a strong and loyal dog walking beside him. Bruno stayed close, occasionally looking up at Sammy as if checking that he was safe. Sammy's heart felt lighter than it had in months. He started to move the wheelchair slowly along the path. Bruno matched his pace exactly. The dog stayed alert, ready to assist if needed. People in the park began to notice. A mother pointed to her child, whispering, "Look at that dog. He is helping the boy move." Sammy saw the curiosity in their eyes, but he no longer felt shy. He felt proud of Bruno, proud of himself, and proud of the bond they shared. He waved at the children, and some waved back. He realized that his world could still be full of friends and laughter. Rahim walked behind them, his heart swelling with hope. Seeing his son smile and interact with the world again was a blessing he had not expected so soon. Bruno's presence had changed more than just Sammy's daily routine. It had brought back courage, confidence, and a sense of normalcy. After the walk, they found a quiet spot under a large tree. Rahim sat on a bench while Sammy and Bruno rested on the grass. Sammy gently stroked Bruno's back, feeling the strong muscles beneath the fur. "I like you, Bruno. I feel like I can do anything when you are here," he said. Bruno responded with a soft bark as if agreeing. Rahim smiled. "He is more than just a dog, Sammy. He is your partner, your friend, and your helper. Together you two can do wonderful things." Sammy nodded. He felt the truth in his father's words. Bruno had already become an important part of his life. The following days brought more discoveries. Rahim noticed that Sammy was trying to move slightly more in his wheelchair. Bruno was always there, steady and supportive. The dog seemed to understand exactly when Sammy needed help and when he needed encouragement. Sometimes Rahim would leave the room for a few minutes and Bruno would stay by Sammy's side, guiding him gently and watching over him. One evening, Rahim suggested they try a new exercise at home. He had placed a small ramp near the living room. Sammy hesitated at first. He looked at the ramp and then at Bruno. The dog seemed to sense Sammy's fear. He moved closer and nudged Sammy's hand gently. "You can do it," his eyes seemed to say. With Bruno's support, Sammy began moving up the ramp slowly. At first it was difficult. His hands shook slightly and he felt unsure. But Bruno stayed calm and steady behind him, providing support. Step by step, Sammy moved forward, encouraged by the dog's presence. Rahim held his breath, watching as Sammy made progress. Finally, Sammy reached the top of the ramp. He turned and smiled at Bruno, tears in his eyes. "I did it, Bruno. I did it!" he exclaimed. Bruno barked softly and wagged his tail, proud of Sammy's achievement. Rahim felt a deep sense of joy. He realized that this small moment was significant. Sammy was gaining not just physical strength but also confidence and determination. The bond between Sammy and Bruno grew stronger each day. They shared meals together, played together, and rested together. Bruno became more than a helper. He became a companion, a source of comfort, and a symbol of hope. Sammy began talking about dreams he had not thought about for months. He spoke about going back to school, playing with friends, and learning new things. Bruno was always there, silently supporting his every word and action. One night, Rahim sat beside Sammy's bed, watching the two of them. Sammy was gently patting Bruno, who was lying calmly by his side. "I think Bruno is my best friend," Sammy whispered. Rahim smiled, feeling the weight of months of worry lifting from his heart. "Not just your best friend, Sammy. He is part of our family now," Rahim said. Sammy nodded, holding Bruno close. The boy felt safe, loved, and understood. He realized that even though his legs could not carry him like before, he could still experience life fully with Bruno by his side. Bruno's presence also began to attract attention from neighbors and friends. People admired the way the dog helped Sammy move and the gentle bond they shared. Some even asked Rahim how they could get a trained dog like Bruno for their loved ones. Rahim felt proud, not only for his son's progress but also for the example of hope they were showing to others. Each day brought new challenges, but also new victories. Sammy tried simple tasks, like reaching for objects, feeding Bruno, or moving short distances independently. Bruno's guidance and support made each small achievement possible. Rahim realized that the accident had taken much, but it had also brought a new beginning. A chance for Sammy to rediscover life in a meaningful way. One afternoon, Rahim and Sammy were sitting in the garden, enjoying the soft breeze. Bruno ran around playfully, bringing a stick to Sammy's hands. Sammy laughed freely, a sound that had been missing for many months. Rahim watched, feeling a quiet miracle unfolding before his eyes. Bruno had not only given physical support, but had also brought back the joy and innocence that Sammy needed most. Rahim knew that the journey ahead would not be easy. Sammy still faced challenges, and there would be days of frustration and struggle. But with Bruno by his side, every day held promise and hope. The boy had discovered a friend who never judged, never tired, and always cared. The father had found a way to restore happiness in his son's life through love, patience, and the loyalty of a remarkable dog. As the sun set, Raheem looked at Sammy and Bruno. The golden light made Bruno's coat shine, and Sammy's eyes sparkled with excitement. He realized that together, they had started a journey of courage, friendship, and miracles. Raheem smiled softly, knowing that the best was yet to come. The bond between a boy and his dog had already begun to transform their lives, and there was no limit to the hope, joy, and love they could share. The next morning, sunlight poured gently through the window. Sammy was awake before Raheem, eager to start the day. He reached out and patted Bruno, who was lying faithfully by his side. The dog responded immediately, standing up and wagging his tail as if ready for the day's adventures. Sammy smiled, feeling stronger and more confident than ever before. Raheem entered the room carrying a tray of breakfast. "Good morning, Sammy," he said. "Bruno is already waiting for you. Are you ready for today?" Sammy nodded eagerly. Bruno barked softly, his eyes focused on Sammy. It was a small sound, but it carried a sense of excitement. Raheem knew that Bruno's presence had brought not just support, but hope, courage, and joy into their lives. After breakfast, Raheem suggested they try a new exercise. He had read about gentle stretching and strengthening routines that could help Sammy's upper body. Today, the goal was to improve Sammy's balance and coordination. Sammy was nervous but determined. He knew that Bruno would be there to support him every step of the way. Raheem placed a small cushion in front of Sammy and asked him to lift small objects from the floor onto the cushion. Sammy reached, hesitated, and then tried again. Bruno nudged the objects gently toward him when they slipped. Each time Sammy succeeded, his face lit up with pride. Raheem could see the transformation in his son. Confidence was returning, and with it, a renewed sense of independence. After the exercises, Raheem suggested a walk outside. The park had become a familiar place, a space where Sammy could move freely with Bruno by his side. Today, however, Raheem had noticed something unusual. A new path had been opened near the pond, slightly sloped and longer than the usual path. He was unsure if Sammy could manage it, but he wanted to encourage his son to try. Sammy looked at the slope nervously. "It looks high, Father," he said. Raheem nodded. "It is a little more challenging, but Bruno will help you. You're stronger than you think." Sammy hesitated, glancing at Bruno. The dog wagged his tail and stepped closer, standing by the wheelchair as if to say, "We can do this together." With Raheem's encouragement and Bruno's guidance, Sammy began moving along the path. The slope was steeper than usual, and the effort required more strength. Sammy's hands trembled slightly on the wheelchair handles, but Bruno stayed close, steady and alert. Step by step, Sammy advanced. The dog occasionally nudged the wheelchair gently, offering just the right amount of support. Children playing nearby stopped to watch. They saw a boy moving carefully, a dog walking faithfully beside him, and a father following closely behind. The sight was remarkable. Sammy felt proud of himself, and Bruno's steady presence gave him courage. By the time they reached the top of the slope, Sammy was breathing heavily but smiling widely. "You did it, Sammy," Raheem said, his voice full of pride. Sammy patted Bruno. "We did it together, Bruno. You helped me," he said. Bruno barked softly, wagging his tail. Raheem watched them, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. He realized that the small victories were as miraculous as any large achievement. The bond between the boy and the dog had created something extraordinary. The following days brought more progress. Sammy began trying new tasks at home. He practiced reaching for objects from different angles, moving small items, and learning to use his arms more efficiently. Bruno remained by his side at all times. If Sammy struggled, Bruno would assist gently. If Sammy succeeded, Bruno would show excitement in small, encouraging ways. Raheem noticed that Sammy's confidence was growing faster than he had ever imagined. One afternoon, Raheem suggested a new challenge. He had read about gentle balance exercises that could help Sammy strengthen his core. He placed a small platform in the living room and asked Sammy to lean slightly forward while Bruno supported him from behind. Sammy looked unsure. The platform seemed intimidating, but Bruno's calm presence reassured him. With careful guidance, Sammy began the exercise. Bruno positioned himself behind Sammy, pressing gently to provide balance. Sammy leaned forward slowly, feeling the support of the dog. At first he wobbled slightly, but Bruno remained steady. With each attempt, Sammy grew more confident. By the end of the exercise, he was smiling broadly. "I am getting stronger, Father," he said. Rahim nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and relief. Rahim realized that Bruno was more than a helper. He was a teacher, a motivator, and a friend. The dog seemed to understand every small need, every hesitation, and every effort. Sammy's progress was not only physical but emotional. The boy felt capable, valued, and loved. One evening, as the sun began to set, Rahim noticed Sammy staring at the window. "What are you thinking about, Sammy?" he asked. Sammy's eyes were focused on the park outside. "I want to try moving without the wheelchair for a short distance," he said quietly. Rahim felt a mixture of worry and hope. Sammy had not tried this since the accident. "Are you sure, Sammy?" Rahim asked gently. Sammy nodded. "I know Bruno will help me," he said. Rahim smiled. He knew that the dog had become more than a companion. He was now an essential part of Sammy's courage. They went to the living room where the floor was smooth and safe. Bruno positioned himself in front of Sammy, ready to guide him. Rahim stayed behind, prepared to support if needed. Sammy took a deep breath, held Bruno's harness, and tried to stand with Bruno's assistance. At first he could only lift slightly, but he persisted. Bruno stayed calm and steady, providing balance and confidence. Slowly, carefully, Sammy managed to take a few steps with Bruno's help. The boy's face lit up with excitement. "I am walking, Father. I am walking," he exclaimed. Rahim's eyes filled with tears. The moment was more than miraculous. It was a triumph of courage, love, and determination. Bruno barked softly, wagging his tail as if celebrating the victory. Sammy laughed, feeling a sense of freedom he had not experienced in months. The news of Sammy's progress spread quietly among neighbors and friends. They came to see the boy and his dog, amazed at the bond they shared. People admired Bruno's intelligence and loyalty, and they were inspired by Sammy's courage. The father felt proud but also grateful. He realized that the dog had not only helped his son physically, but had also restored hope, joy, and confidence in their lives. Rahim knew that the journey was far from over. Sammy still had challenges ahead and there would be difficult days. But with Bruno by his side, every step forward felt possible. The bond between them was now unbreakable. Sammy had discovered a friend who would never leave, never judge, and always support him. One afternoon, they returned to the park to practice walking with Bruno's guidance. The sun was warm and the air was filled with birdsong. Sammy held Bruno's harness firmly, taking slow steps. Bruno moved carefully, adjusting his pace to match Sammy's. Rahim followed closely, ready to encourage but not interfere. People passing by stopped and watched in amazement. They could see a boy defying the limits that had been placed on him, guided by the loyalty and strength of a dog. As the day ended, Rahim sat on a bench while Sammy and Bruno played nearby. Sammy had learned to enjoy the simple pleasures again. He threw a small ball, which Bruno fetched and returned patiently. Rahim observed the boys' laughter and realized that the accident had taken much, but it had also given them a gift. The bond with Bruno had opened doors to courage, independence, and happiness. That night, as Sammy went to bed, he hugged Bruno tightly. "Thank you for helping me, Bruno. You are my hero," he whispered. Bruno rested his head on Sammy's lap, understanding the words without needing to speak. Rahim watched them and felt a sense of peace he had not known in months. The boy was no longer trapped in despair. He had a friend who could guide him, a companion who loved him unconditionally, and a father who believed in him. Rahim knew that the next steps would require patience, determination, and continued support. But he also knew that with Bruno's presence, Sammy could face anything. The bond they shared had already worked small miracles, and there was no limit to what they could achieve together. Every day brought new discoveries, new victories, and new reasons to hope. The journey had only begun. But Rahim could see that the combination of courage, love, and loyalty was powerful. Sammy's spirit was rising, strengthened by the guidance of his remarkable dog. Bruno had become more than an animal. He was a symbol of hope, a helper in every sense, and a miracle in the boy's life. As the night grew darker, Rahim whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude. The father, the son, and the dog had found a path forward, one step at a time. The miraculous moments were just beginning, and Rahim knew that the future would hold even greater triumphs, all because of the unbreakable bond between a boy and his German Shepherd K9. The morning sun shone brightly as Sammy sat by the window, watching birds fly across the sky. The world outside seemed alive and full of possibilities. Sammy's eyes sparkled with excitement. Today felt different. He had been practicing with Bruno for weeks, learning to trust his strength, his courage, and the steady support of his remarkable companion. Rahim entered the room carrying breakfast and noticed the unusual energy in Sammy. "Good morning. Sammy, you seem ready for a big day," he said. Sammy smiled and nodded. Bruno, sensing the excitement, wagged his tail and nuzzled the boy gently. Rahim knew that today, something special was about to happen. After breakfast, Rahim suggested they try a new exercise. He had read about a technique that combined balance, strength, and confidence. The exercise involved standing and taking a few steps without full reliance on the wheelchair, with Bruno providing steady support. Sammy's heart raced with both excitement and nervousness. He looked at Bruno. The dog's calm and reassuring eyes gave him courage. Rahim helped Sammy into position. Bruno stood firmly beside him, his body strong and steady. Sammy gripped Bruno's harness tightly, feeling the solid support beneath his hands. Rahim encouraged him softly. "Take it slow, Sammy. Bruno is here to help you." Sammy nodded. He felt a mixture of fear and determination. For months he had thought walking again was impossible. But now with Bruno it seemed possible. The first step was tentative. Sammy shifted his weight slightly and Bruno adjusted his stance, keeping the boy balanced. Rahim held his breath as Sammy moved forward, one careful step at a time. Bruno's presence was calming, guiding, and supportive. Sammy could feel the strength of the dog beneath him, a silent promise that he would not fall. Step by step, Sammy moved forward. His confidence grew with each step. Bruno's gentle guidance, the strength in his legs, and the steady determination in his eyes made Sammy feel safe. Rahim's heart raced with hope. He had never imagined that this day could come so soon. The bond between the boy and the dog had created something extraordinary. After a few steps, Sammy stopped to catch his breath. He looked at Bruno, his eyes shining with excitement and disbelief. "I am really doing it, Bruno," he whispered. Bruno barked softly, wagging his tail as if to say, "You are stronger than you know." Rahim stepped closer, offering quiet encouragement. The room was filled with a sense of triumph and joy. Sammy took a deep breath and tried again. This time he moved further, guided by Bruno's steady presence. Every step felt miraculous. The boy had learned patience, courage, and trust. Bruno had been more than a helper. He had been a teacher, a motivator, and a source of unwavering faith. Sammy's movements were slow but purposeful, and each step was a victory. After several attempts, Sammy paused and turned to Rahim. "Father, I think I can do it on my own, with Bruno by my side," he said. Rahim smiled, feeling tears of pride in his eyes. "I believe in you, Sammy. Bruno believes in you. Now is your chance," he said softly. Sammy gripped Bruno's harness and began moving without holding the wheelchair. The dog matched his pace perfectly, guiding and supporting without rushing. The steps were small but steady. Sammy could feel his legs holding him, his arms balancing, and Bruno's strength beside him. It was a moment of triumph that no words could describe. Rahim watched with a mixture of awe and happiness. Sammy had not just taken physical steps, he had taken steps toward hope, confidence, and independence. The afternoon brought a quiet celebration. Sammy had managed to walk several steps with Bruno's help. Rahim lifted him into his arms and hugged him tightly. "I am so proud of you, Sammy," he whispered. Sammy smiled, feeling joy that had seemed impossible months ago. Bruno wagged his tail and licked the boy's hand as if sharing in the celebration. The three of them sat together, feeling the power of love, trust, and determination. In the days that followed, Sammy continued practicing. Each morning, he and Bruno went through exercises that built strength and balance. Each evening, they practiced walking short distances, always guided by Bruno. Rahim noticed that Sammy's confidence had grown significantly. He no longer feared the steps he had once thought impossible. Bruno had taught him to trust his own strength, one step at a time. The local park became a place of triumph and joy. Sammy and Bruno would go there to practice walking and playing. People began noticing the incredible bond between the boy and his dog. Children watched with admiration. Neighbors whispered words of encouragement, and Rahim felt a quiet pride in their small but meaningful miracles. Sammy's progress inspired others, and his laughter returned fully, filling their home and community with happiness. One evening, Raheem suggested trying a slightly longer path at the park. Sammy looked hesitant, but Bruno's calm eyes reassured him. Step by step, they moved along the new path. Bruno's presence remained steady, guiding the boy safely. Sammy began to walk further, his movements more confident with each step. Raheem walked behind, quietly cheering and capturing the moment in his heart. The miraculous moment came when Sammy took a step without holding the harness, relying only on his own strength while Bruno walked beside him, providing silent support. Raheem could not believe his eyes. Sammy's small step was a victory beyond imagination. He smiled widely, laughing with pure joy. Bruno barked softly, wagging his tail, celebrating with Sammy. It was a moment that Raheem would never forget. From that day forward, Sammy's confidence continued to grow. He practiced daily with Bruno, each step bringing him closer to independence. Raheem realized that the dog had not only helped Sammy physically, but had also restored his spirit. Bruno had shown that love, loyalty, and determination could create miracles, even in the most challenging situations. Sammy's life began to change in many ways. He became more active, more social, and more hopeful. He talked about dreams he had thought were impossible. He shared laughter with friends, played safely in the garden, and continued walking with Bruno's support. The bond between the boy and his dog had transformed their lives completely. Raheem often watched the two of them together and felt a deep sense of gratitude. The accident had taken so much, but it had also brought Bruno into their lives. The German Shepherd had become a symbol of hope, courage, and unconditional love. Together, Sammy and Bruno had accomplished what seemed impossible. The boy had learned to walk, the dog had taught patience and loyalty, and Raheem had witnessed a miracle unfold before his eyes. Evenings were peaceful now. Sammy would sit quietly with Bruno by his side, resting after a day of practice. Raheem would read or work nearby, watching the gentle companionship between the boy and his dog. The home, once filled with silence and worry, was now alive with laughter, movement, and the quiet miracles of everyday life. The journey was not yet complete, but Raheem knew that with Bruno, Sammy could continue to grow stronger, more confident, and more independent. The miraculous steps they had achieved were only the beginning. Every day brought new challenges, but also new victories. The bond they shared was unbreakable, built on trust, love, and determination. Raheem understood that the true miracle was not only in the physical steps Sammy had taken, but in the transformation of his spirit. The boy who had once felt hopeless was now filled with courage. The father who had once felt helpless was now filled with pride and gratitude. And the dog, loyal and loving, had shown that miracles could happen when hearts were united with love and trust. As the sun set over their home, Sammy and Bruno played quietly in the garden. Sammy's laughter echoed softly in the evening air. Raheem watched from the window, feeling a warmth that no words could describe. The miracle of their bond had changed their lives forever. With Bruno by his side, Sammy was no longer defined by his limitations. He was defined by his courage, his joy, and the miraculous steps he had taken toward a brighter future. Raheem whispered a quiet prayer of thanks. He knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but with love, patience, and the unwavering support of Bruno, there was nothing that Sammy could not overcome. The story of a boy and his German Shepherd was no longer just about walking again. It was about hope, determination, and the extraordinary power of friendship. The morning sunlight spilled into the Raheem household, filling every corner of the room with warmth. Sammy was awake early, more eager than ever. Today felt special. There was a quiet excitement in the air, a feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. Bruno lay beside Sammy, his eyes alert and focused, sensing the boy's anticipation. Raheem entered carrying breakfast and noticed the energy in the room. "Good morning, Sammy," he said softly. "You seem ready for a new adventure today." Sammy smiled. "I want to try something new, Father," he said. Bruno wagged his tail gently, nuzzling the boy's hand as if to say he was ready to help. Raheem nodded, understanding that today could mark another important step in Sammy's journey. After breakfast, Raheem suggested they practice outside in the garden. The grass was soft and the air smelled fresh. Sammy positioned himself near the center of the garden. Bruno stood in front of him, calm and steady. Raheem remained nearby, ready to support if needed. The sun shone warmly and everything felt peaceful. Sammy felt a mixture of excitement and determination. He had practiced walking many times before, but today he wanted to try something different. Rahim explained the plan. Today, Sammy, you will try walking without holding onto the harness. Bruno will stay close and guide you, but you will take the steps on your own strength. Sammy's eyes widened. The thought was both thrilling and frightening. Could he really do it? Rahim smiled reassuringly. You have done amazing things before, Sammy. Trust yourself in Bruno. Sammy took a deep breath and slowly stood up. His legs were steady, though his knees shook slightly. Bruno moved closer, walking alongside him, his presence a silent promise of safety and support. Rahim held his breath, watching as the boy took the first tentative step forward. It was small, careful, but full of courage. Step by step, Sammy continued. His confidence grew with each movement. He could feel his legs supporting him, his arms balancing, and Bruno guiding him silently. The dog occasionally nudged his side, encouraging him to keep moving. The father watched, amazed and proud. Sammy's small steps were more than physical progress. They were moments of courage, determination, and trust. Neighbors who often passed by noticed the activity in the garden. Some stopped, quietly observing. Children peered from behind fences, whispering in amazement. They saw a boy who had once seemed confined by his wheelchair, now taking steps with the guidance of a loyal dog. Sammy smiled as he noticed the children watching. He waved, and they waved back, inspired by his determination. Sammy continued moving forward, his steps growing stronger. Bruno remained close, steady, and attentive. Rahim felt tears fill his eyes. The miracle was not just in the steps Sammy was taking, but in the transformation of his spirit. For months, the accident had taken so much, but now hope, courage, and joy were returning in a way that was almost magical. After several careful steps, Sammy paused. He looked at Bruno, his eyes shining. "Bruno, I think I can do more," he said. Bruno barked softly, wagging his tail. The dog's encouragement was silent but powerful. Rahim moved closer, giving a quiet nod. Sammy took a deep breath and began moving forward again. This time he walked further, each step steadier than the last. Suddenly, a gentle breeze blew through the garden. Leaves rustled softly and birds sang in the trees. Sammy felt a wave of freedom, a feeling he had not experienced since the accident. His legs supported him, his body balanced, and Bruno guided him silently. The garden felt vast and full of possibilities. Sammy's laughter rang out, pure and joyful, echoing in the warm morning air. Rahim stepped forward, clapping softly. "Sammy, you are doing it. You are walking." Sammy's eyes shone with excitement. "I am walking, Father. Look at me, Bruno." Bruno barked softly, moving beside him as if celebrating every step. The three of them shared a moment of triumph that felt larger than life. It was not just about walking. It was about courage, trust, and the extraordinary power of friendship. The progress did not stop there. Rahim encouraged Sammy to try moving across the entire garden. The boy's steps were steady, guided by his own strength and Bruno's support. Each time he stumbled, Bruno was there to balance him. Each time he succeeded, Bruno celebrated with soft barks and gentle nudges. Rahim watched in awe, realizing that this was more than just physical achievement. It was a transformation of hope, spirit, and determination. Sammy's neighbors gathered quietly, watching the miraculous scene. They had seen him confined to his wheelchair for months, and now, with the help of his German shepherd, he was walking. Children cheered softly, inspired by Sammy's courage. Adults whispered words of admiration and encouragement. Rahim felt proud, not just for Sammy, but for the example of hope and resilience they were showing to the community. The father and son shared a quiet moment under the shade of a large tree. Sammy sat down on the grass, tired but exhilarated. Bruno lay beside him, resting his head on Sammy's lap. Rahim knelt down, brushing the boy's hair gently. "You have done something incredible, Sammy. Bruno has been your guide, but the courage was all yours," he said. Sammy smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. Over the next few days, Sammy continued practicing with Bruno. Each morning they walked together, gradually increasing the distance. Sammy's confidence grew with each step. He no longer feared the limitations his accident had placed on him. Instead, he embraced the possibilities before him. Bruno remained a constant source of support, patient, loyal, and loving. Rahim noticed another change. Sammy's spirit had brightened. He laughed freely, played actively, and even helped around the house in small ways. The boy who had once been confined by despair was now filled with hope and determination. Bruno had not just helped him walk, he had helped him rediscover joy, independence, and the power of love. One evening, Rahim suggested a visit to the park where they had first practiced walking. Sammy was excited. With Bruno by his side, he moved confidently along the familiar paths. Children waved, neighbors smiled, and everyone admired the miraculous journey of the boy and his dog. Sammy felt proud, and Bruno seemed proud as well. Their bond had grown even stronger through every challenge, every small step, and every victory. As the sun began to set, Rahim, Sammy, and Bruno sat together on a bench. The sky was painted with warm hues of orange and pink. Sammy rested his head against Bruno's soft fur, feeling safe and loved. Rahim wrapped an arm around his son. "This journey has been incredible," he said softly. "You have shown courage, patience, and determination, and Bruno has been your faithful friend every step of the way." Sammy smiled, his eyes reflecting the colors of the sky. "Father, I could not have done this without Bruno. He is more than a dog. He is my hero, my friend, and my guide," he said. Bruno barked softly, wagging his tail in agreement. Rahim hugged them both, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. The accident had taken much, but it had also brought an extraordinary friend into their lives. A friend who had turned hope into a reality. The father, the son, and the dog sat quietly, watching the sun disappear beyond the horizon. There was peace, joy, and a sense of miracle in the air. Sammy had walked, but more importantly, he had regained confidence, independence, and faith in himself. Bruno had been more than a helper. He had been a symbol of love, loyalty, and the power of determination. Rahim knew that life would continue to bring challenges. There would be days of difficulty and frustration, but he also knew that Sammy had learned a powerful lesson. With courage, patience, and the unwavering support of a loyal friend, anything was possible. Bruno had shown them all that miracles could happen when hearts were united in love and trust. That night, as Sammy went to bed, Bruno lay faithfully beside him. The boy hugged the dog gently, whispering, "Thank you for everything, Bruno. You have given me my life back." Bruno rested his head on Sammy's chest, understanding every word without needing to speak. Rahim watched silently, feeling a sense of peace and fulfillment that words could not describe. From that day forward, Sammy continued to grow stronger and more confident. Every step he took with Bruno's guidance was a reminder of how far he had come. The bond between a boy and his dog had transformed their lives completely. It was a story of hope, courage, and the extraordinary power of love and friendship. Rahim often reflected on the journey they had taken. The accident had been a test, challenging their hearts and spirits. But the presence of Bruno had turned despair into hope, fear into courage, and limitation into possibility. Sammy had walked again, and in doing so, he had discovered the miracle of friendship, determination, and unconditional love. As the family settled into a peaceful evening, Rahim whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude. The miraculous bond between a boy and his German shepherd had not only restored mobility, but had also restored joy, confidence, and hope. They had learned that even in the darkest times, love and loyalty could create miracles. Sammy, Bruno, and Rahim sat together in the soft glow of the setting sun, knowing that their journey of courage, love, and friendship had only just begun.